what happened to Congressman Bob Inglis. He's a Republican from South Carolina. He goes to have this event, and the crowd is worked up and they hate him. And there's an organization called AnybodyButBob.com, because apparently he's a Republican that's not an absolute lunatic. He's trying to talk to these guys, and they keep yelling at him, just like they yell at the Democrats. But I watched this whole 10-minute video. I'm going to show you a small part of it here at the end, because something interesting happened there. But people would get up and they'd say, you know what? What do you think about vaccines? We don't think it should be mandatory. And Bob Inglis is like, well, vaccines are to help you, so your kids don't get sick. They're like, boo, boo, you're trying to control our lives. And they say, what about, the environment? He said, look, yes, I voted on a law that allows for energy-efficient light bulbs. Boo, boo. Literally, they're booing him over energy-efficient light bulbs. No, you want to spend more money on your electricity bill? It doesn't make any sense. And whatever he brought up, he said, look, he was saying even NPR agrees with us, because he had heard NPR talking about it. So he's trying to make a Republican point and say, look, it's not even Fox News, it's NPR. And he mentions NPR, boo! I felt like he was trying to talk to a lunatic asylum. These guys would just jump up and say nonsensical things, and he kept shaking his head. And they were yelling at him, you work for us, Bob! And look, you want to hold your congressman accountable. That's great. I wish we did a lot more of that in the past, right? But there's a sensible way of doing it, and there's a way of doing it, one, that's disruptive and doesn't help anybody, and two, that makes you look absolutely crazy. So at the end here, he tells them, look, I need you guys to calm down. Don't be so afraid, which I think takes a lot of courage on Inglis's part to say that to a Republican audience, because they're frightened. They're frightened out of their minds. You can see it. That's where the anger is coming from. They see something slipping away and they don't know what it is. And then his interaction with them here is absolutely fascinating. I hope you can hear most of this. Clip number 4.
We can live here all disappointed in Obama, or we can... I'm afraid of Obama. Why are you afraid? He's a socialist. Let me ask you something. This is very helpful. We are all afraid of Obama. So let me make sure you remember this. Really good. A good suggestion up here. The suggestion to watching Glenn Beck. Here's what I'd suggest. Turn that television off when he comes on. What you're doing is you're not leading, you're just following fearful people. So if you want to lead, stop being fearful and go forward with a...
Okay, did you hear him? He said, stop following fearful people. Let's look forward. And he said, stop being afraid. They're trading on fear when he mentioned Glenn Beck. And then, of course, you heard when he said that, they're like, boo, boo, we want to be afraid. Did you hear the guy in the beginning of the tape where he said, we're all afraid of Obama? God, the conservative talk show hosts have an amazing way of touching something, ancient in us, if you will, visceral, like fear and anger, and they get people riled up. In that same town hall event, people would get up, and one guy seemed like a rational guy. I was like, oh, finally someone who's not yelling. And he said, look, Congressman, I want to tell you, everybody I've been talking to is talking about a revolution. We need to start a revolution. And then you see his eyes glaze over. I'm like, what revolution? Why? Why do you want a revolution? What's happening?
Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
Think about it. Okay. And then woman got up a couple of times, and another one too, 2 different people. The Constitution! They're ripping the Constitution apart! I brought the Constitution! Revolution! But what did Obama do to the Constitution? And where were you guys when Bush and Cheney were raping it? Okay, look, I'm serious. Point to the part in the Constitution that Obama's, violating, because if he is, I'm on your side. I care about the Constitution deeply. Look, Bush, you can argue what he did about the 5th, the 6th, the 8th Amendments, the right to counsel, et cetera, et cetera. You can make some arguments. What you can't argue about is the 4th Amendment, okay? He absolutely pummeled the 4th Amendment. Unreasonable searches and seizures, and these guys claim that their home is their castle and their domain and they don't want to be messed. He wiretapped all your asses, and he didn't get a court order to do it. Clear violation of the 4th Amendment, let alone Article 1, which says Congress makes laws. And Bush was like, Congress makes laws unless I do a signing statement where I don't give a damn what the Congress says. I make the law. Okay, and the executive orders, et cetera, et cetera. Where were you guys when we had a real fight about the Constitution? Because it's not about the Constitution. They don't know what the hell's in the Constitution. And they couldn't point to a single problem that Obama's creating with the Constitution, except in some places where he's following Bush's precedent too much, if you ask me. Then I'd be on their side if they pointed to that. But no, they're just fearful and angry, and they don't know why. And so that is a perfect time for conservative commentators, whether they're on radio or TV or print, to come out and take advantage, because that's what they live off of: fear and anger. Listen to Yoda. It only leads to suffering.